What's up, guys? Today we're taking a look at a new motherboard from EVGA. It is their Z170 Classified K, and it's made to sit in between the higher end Z170 Classified and their lower end Z170 FTW. So let's go ahead and take a look. Taking a look at the box here, of course, on the front, it does let us know that it is the Z170 Classified K. And on the sides, we have some information. This side tells us a little bit about their BIOS. And on this side has a lot of the main features listed there. And of course, if we go around to the back here, it gives us even more detail. So again, if you are at the store, you have a lot of information on the board before you go ahead and buy it. So getting everything out of the box and taking a look at it, we do have our motherboard here, and I did want to show you the motherboard. I typically don't do this in most of our motherboard videos, but I did want to show you the motherboard because they've actually protected it quite well. So some of the things that happens when you get a motherboard is that, and especially when you do an installation too, is that your heat sinks will actually get kind of scratches on them or something like that, and it just can ruin the overall look of your board. So they've actually protected all of your heat sinks, which is actually really nice. And so you can go ahead and do your installation. Then when you're finally done, you can rip off that plastic. They also have warnings here. So on the CPU socket, it says, please read before installation. It gives you a warning, lets you know what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Same thing with our memory. There's a sticker on there. So, if you're a first-time builder, EVGA has really helped you out and kind of, giving you warnings, letting you know what you do, what you shouldn't do, so you don't go ahead and mess up the board before you even get started. Now, as far as our accessories, I left them in the bags because I think the bags are actually pretty cool. So it's going to be kind of hard to see with our glare here, but we do have these really cool looking EVGA bags that all of your accessories come in. So, and they are labeled down here as well, so you know what each thing is. So right there was our IO cover, which will cover the rear part of our IO, which we'll go ahead and show you once we get into everything. We have our two SATA cables here. We have a two-way SLI bridge. We have our rear IO shield. We have our drivers and installation CD, a really cool case badge, again, kind of hard to see with our glare, but a really cool case badge here that you can go ahead and put on your case, or you can even put it on a keyboard or something like that. We have our specs and installation guide, and then we have a screw, and this actual extra screw is for the smaller M.2 slot that's used for an additional Wi-Fi adapter if you wanted to install one. Taking a first look at the Z170 Classified K, you can see we have a really great design here. So EVGA's thing on their Z170 motherboards is we basically have an all black design. So we have an entirely black, sort of like a matte black PCB, and then we have black accents everywhere on the heat sinks and all of that. And the heat sinks have a really cool design. This one here kind of has like sort of a fire type looking design, really aggressive. And then down here on this one, it says EVGA motherboard, and of course we have the EVGA logo right there. Starting with the CPU socket, we have Intel's LGA 1151 socket, which of course supports Skylake processors. All around here we have our power delivery components, and this board has an 8-phase all-digital power design. That is cooled by, of course, these two large heat sinks, and the heat sinks are connected with a heat pipe. Above the top heatsink, we have our 8-pin EPS connector. Now, this might be a little bit hard to connect if you're in a case, just for the fact that this heatsink here, we'll have to see that once we get into our installation and all of that. Now, if we move on here, we have two CPU fan connectors. This one, furthest one over, is our main CPU fan connector, and then we have a second CPU2 fan connector. Moving over, we have our DDR4 DIMM slots here, and this of course is for dual channel memory. While these are not color coded for dual channel, so if you're a first time builder, you might have a little bit of trouble, but if you've done any type of motherboard installation or memory installation, you know that it's every other slot, so it should be pretty easy for you. Now, moving up top here, we have another 4-pin fan connector. We have our clear CMOS button, and that's really great to see. I love to see the button. A couple of motherboards that we reviewed recently just have a jumper. A clear CMOS button just makes it so much easier to reset your BIOS. If you've made any changes and messed anything up, just makes it so much easier. We have dedicated power and reset buttons. Another thing I love to see on motherboards, because especially for us, if we're in a test bench, it's just so much easier to use those power and reset so we don't have to connect an external power button. We have our postcode LED display, and this is great as well, especially if you're troubleshooting, your system's not booting up. This will of course post a code on there that you can go ahead and look up and see where your system's halting before it goes into boot. And we have our 24-pin ATX power connection, and we have a BIOS selection switch. Moving down the board to our storage connections, of course, those are at a 90-degree angle. So if you are going to be installing a lot of hard drives or anything like that, these connections won't get in the way if you have a longer graphics card. Now we have 2, 4, 6 SATA 6 gig ports, and then we have 2 SATA Express ports. Now remember, if you're not going to be using SATA Express, that opens up 2 more ports per SATA Express connector. So in total, you have 10 SATA 6 gig ports. Moving down to the bottom of the board, we have the rest of our headers and connections. So starting over here, we have our front panel connections. We have a USB 2.0 header, USB 3.0 header. We have 2 fan connections, and of course these are 4-pin fan connections, HD audio, and then we have a 6-pin PCI Express connector if you need to bring extra power to your PCI Express slots. Moving on to expansion slots, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 PCI Express 3.0 X16 slots. We have a single X4 slot and a single X1 slot. In between the slots, we have 2 M.2 slots. There's one down here and one right here. And what's really cool about these slots, first thing is that the one that's way up here supports ultra long M.2 SSDs, so you have a lot of space there. This one is the typical length that we normally see, but the one up here has a lot of room. And also, it's actually written on the board what's going to be disabled if you enable one of these M.2 slots. So like on this top one, on the board it actually says SATA port 4.5 will be disabled with M.2 enabled. So it lets you know, again, if you're a first-time builder, you're not really sure how all that works with the PCI Express lanes, it will actually tell you on the board what's going to be disabled, what's going to be enabled, things like that. Really cool. Up here, it is kind of hidden and at the top of the video, but we have another in our final 4-pin fan header. This is perfect for an exhaust fan. Moving to the far end of the board, we have our audio components. You can see they have that PCB isolation right here that isolates all of the audio components from the rest of the motherboard, giving you less interference and all of that kind of stuff. We have an M key E down here, and as you can see, this is really small, so it's not made for an SSD. It's actually made for a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth module. Finally, moving on to the rear I/O, we have 2 USB 2.0 ports, 2 USB 3.1 ports, 4 USB 3.0 ports. We have dual gigabit Ethernet. One of these is powered by Killer's E2400 networking controller, and the other one is Intel powered. We have another clear CMOS switch right here. Again, this is really great to see, especially on the back of the board. This means that you don't have to open up your case to go ahead and reset your CMOS. We have display ports, HDMI, and then our audio. So this wraps it up for our unboxing and overview of the EVGA Classified K motherboard. Now, if you have any questions about this motherboard, go ahead and leave it in the comment section below. Till next time, catch you guys later.